Welcome to the Whimsical Workshop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make these adorable gift tags to tie on your presents. To make these gift tags, you will need to download the pattern. It's a free download on our website. I'll put the link below for you. You're going to need some fusible web to do the applique on the tags, and the pattern is written using 3 fabrics. So I've got red, green, and white. You certainly can use as many fabrics as you want, but a 1/4 yard of each will get you 9 tags. So that's a lot of tags if you are making these. You can do them in a batch. So once you gather all your tools, the next step is to prep your applique shapes. You can do it 2 different ways. You can follow the directions and use the templates in the free pattern to trace your pieces onto fusible web, put it on the fabric and cut them out. Or if you'd like, if you have a Cricut maker or a fabric cutter machine that takes an SVG file, I'm going to put a link below where you can purchase and download the SVG file to go with these tags. So next, you need to prep your applique and get it ready to put it on the tags. So to do the traditional method, you would go to the templates page. You'll need your fusible web and a Sharpie ultrafine pen to do this. And you're going to see we have templates and we have placement drawings. So you're going to trace the chosen templates that you want. In this case, I'm going to do the stocking. So you just trace it. And I usually add whatever notes are on the template. Like this says white, and this says red. That way I remember later on, if I'm doing a bunch of these, what color they each go on. Obviously, if you're just doing 2, it's not that hard, but you never know. Next, you're going to roughly cut the shapes out outside the drawn line. So next, after you've roughly cut out the shapes, you're going to position it on the wrong side of your fabric. Follow the manufacturer instructions for whatever fusible web you're using. They all have different temperatures and times. So you just go ahead and press that down. Usually it'll change color. That's kind of it just gets a little darker, and that's usually a sign that it's ready. And then once you've done that, now you cut it on the drawn lines. And the reason I like to use the Sharpie ultrafine point marker is because the line is the same thickness as my scissor blade, so I don't have to guess which side of the line to cut on. And I do use my fabric scissors when I cut through fusible web and fabric because 1, I go get these sharpened a lot, and 2, there's nothing worse than cutting with dull scissors, and for fabric you really do need sharp scissors. So there's the stocking, and then you repeat the same thing with the top of your stocking. And the reason you cut it out outside the drawn lines, then press it to the fabric and cut on the drawn lines, is this will seal all of those raw edges with the glue. If I cut the paper piece out on the drawn line, iron it to the fabric, and then cut the fabric to match it, your edges are still raw and they don't have any glue on them, and they'll start fraying, and it just kind of makes a mess. So that's an insurance policy to make sure your edges are correct. So this is how you get your shapes ready, following the traditional method, which is written in the pattern. You can also use the SVG method. Either way, you just need to get to a point where you have your applique shapes and your gift tags cut out. All right, so now we have all our pieces cut and prepped. Now we're ready to start assembling our gift tags. So the first thing you're going to do is in the pattern is placement drawings for all 3 shapes. If you have an applique pressing sheet, you can assemble these shapes before we stick them on the gift tag. So I'm going to use this as a guide, and I'm going to build each of these shapes using the drawing. So let's do that. So first up is the stocking. You need a straight pin, and you can scratch the back of your papered fusible web and peel it off. And we're just going to position this. Okay, and then you can iron right on the AppliFuse sheet. I'll put a link below for these. These are really awesome for building applique. And there we go. So now this, it does get hot, be aware. Not enough to burn you, but to make you jump like that. So then this guy can get positioned onto this gift tag. I'm just gonna press them. And then we're gonna finish the raw edges before we press the 2 tags together to finish it. So let's get all of these built, and then we're gonna stitch the edges. So So once you get your shapes pressed down on your tag, I leave the paper on the back because it slides a little easier on the machine versus if you peel this off. Here's one I've already finished. It's gonna want to grip a little more. This one isn't too terrible, but some of these can get very grippy. So I'm gonna blanket stitch right through the paper, and then you're going to rip the paper off when you're done. So here it is. I got one crazy hair to get rid of here. Every once in a while you get one. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm stitching everything in dark green. So we're gonna start, if you look at this, if you start here and you go around the trunk, you can then pivot and go around the whole tree without having to break your threads. So I always look for the path of least resistance. I am making sure I use an open toe foot, cannot stress this enough. It's a foot with like nothing, no bar, no plastic. It's open. It will make or break your blanket stitching. So I always recommend that no matter what kind of machine you have. If you have a stitch needle down position option on your machine, go ahead and turn that on. And make sure your needle is in the center position. And on each of these feet, there is a line in the center. If not, you could mark a line on the center. That center line is going to go on the edge of my fabric as I go around. That's another guide for me. So that's why you want to make sure your needle's in the center position. Okay, so to get started, especially in something this tiny, make sure you do a test swatch first and make sure that the stitch is not going to bite in too deeply and like overwhelm your piece of applique. You can always change the stitch width to get a smaller bite. And you can also have different widths in the same piece, so you don't have to like commit to one stitch width and that's it for the whole quilt block, or in this case, the gift tag. Yeah, you'll see I'm pulling I am trying to pull the bottom thread up through the top. Apparently it all got tangled, but there you go, bottom to top. And then we go ahead and we start. Oh, helps to turn on your blanket stitch. All right, so we've already got a knot there, and then we just keep going. Now you can see this is very tiny. So I'm gonna be doing a lot of stopping and pivoting. So there's a stitch. And when you get past the starting point, you just snip these little threads and get rid of them. And you see, I'm just stitch and I'm lifting the foot and pivoting, a stitch and pivoting, and another. All right, now we're done with the trunk. We're going to start the tree. And as I come up to the garland, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch the one edge of the garland down. I'm going to zip across the garland because it's so narrow. It's not a big jump when I get back around. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to come to the end. I'm going to skip that short side because I'll catch it on the other side. I'll jump down and do the other half coming back. I'm going to reverse stitch because I'm not going over the last stitch. Then I'm going to lift my needle up and I'm going to scoot over and just continue to stitch. And I'll go back and clip those little leader threads at the end. There we go. So there's our little Christmas tree tag. So the next step is to peel the taper off the back. I realize as I'm fighting with some of the littler pieces, it doesn't matter, it's a gift tag, so if there's a little paper in the middle and you don't get it all out, it's not the end of the world. We'll be just fine. So then the next step with our little gift tags is we got to put a back on them. And we're going to do that. In this case, I'm going to make my backs not the same fabric as my front. So on this one, I have the green ornament on the polka dots, and I'm going to put it on a green back. So you're going to take this over to the iron. We should peel this off. You're gonna line these edges using the hole. I find using the hole helps. You're gonna line your edges and you're going to press these two pieces together. And here's another thought. If you have an embroidery machine, you can embroider the to and from on the back. You can use a permanent marker to write it. You could put a little white piece on top that you've written on. There's different ways to write on these. All right, so now I've pressed their backs and the fronts together. And let's see, you see here I did the red with the green and the green with the red. And then I just did white on white because I didn't want the white to another color to show through. So there they are. They're all ready. But now we need to finish these raw edges, and we're going to finish the little hole. At the beginning I was talking about you could put a rivet in here, which you can, but I'm going to just use a stitch to keep it all nice and easy. So what you do is you take a zigzag stitch on your machine and you reduce the width of the stitch to like 1.5. And you're going to grab a piece of fabric, and I'm going to do the edge stitch on that first. Make sure I like what it looks like. And the edge of the fabric should go on my center line because my needle should be in the center. Too narrow. So you're going to have to fiddle with it a little. All right, so that is what our stitch is going to look like right there. So I have the stitch width to 0.7, or I'm sorry, stitch length to 0.75 and the stitch width to 4. And I'm using green thread all the way around on these. And then once I have that figured out, you can see here, you know, because I didn't quite center these, I'm going to trim up any overlap. You don't have to, the stitch will cover it, but if it's really a lot of overlap, you do want to get rid of it. And I'm going to start on one of the straight edges, and I'm going to go, again, put the edge. If you have your needle in center, you can use the center line on the foot and align it with the edge of your fabric. And we're just going to go all the way around, and that'll seal the edges so they don't fray. Okay, and then once you go around, I just went over my first stitch, and then I'm going to clip this out, apparently, because it's fighting me. And we're going to go around our little hole versus doing an eyelet. There we go. So there's our little hole, all stitched. So now all our raw edges are stitched. Our little gift tag is done. We just need to add a ribbon, which I'll show you in just a second, and ready to go. So that's how easy these guys are. All right, so now that we got our tags all stitched and our little holes all stitched, we're ready to label them. This is To Matthew Love Heidi. And then we need to add our cords so we can tie them onto our packages. So what I did is, this is just rat tail. You can use ribbon, you can use string, you can use any kind of cord. I cut a 16-inch piece. I'm folding it in half. You slide the loop through the hole. Take the tails and slide those through the loop. Pull it snug, and there you go. You're all set and ready to tie these onto your presents. All right, so there they are. There's our 3 tags ready to go. This is a free pattern on our website. I'll make sure I put the link below the video for you. And the SVG files on our Etsy store, I will put that down below too if anyone is interested. I'd love to see if you make some of these. Send me some pictures, leave me a comment. Let me know if you like this quick and easy project for Christmas. And I thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you like and subscribe below. You can find the Whimsical Workshop on our website, thewhimsicalworkshop.com, and that has all links to all of our other social media platforms. Thanks for joining us.